chat window, and if you have something to, all right, I want to print hello world in French. All right, Ajay, so what was, I think the local separation would have been covered in the last class by Vineet, I guess. Let me tell you, this is Amit Sharma, so I was not the one who took your last class. Let me tell you about this. But even if it's not clear, I'll just let you know about it. So Ajay says he's not able to print hello world in French language. All right, so let's go on. Let's create a new Android application project for him. Give it an application name. I say, give it a name, test French language. Or say, I say French local. Once I do that, I'll keep the basics right here. And I do a finish. All right, Ayush has also just joined in. I hope, Ayush, I'm audible to you. Here you see a string being fetched up. So let's go on to the local here. First of all, let's check what should be the identifier for the local here. Let's go here. Go on to custom local here. Under custom local, we have to find out the keyword for French. I hope it is FR, but let's just do a complete. That's correct. For French, it's FR. All right. So let's go here. Create a new folder. And we call this folder as values-FR. That is for French language. I do a finish here. So this folder of mine contains all the values that I have to have for French. So I'll just copy the strings.xml file and I paste it here for the French local. All right, let me just copy it up. All right. So here we have to make the changes to the hello world text so that everything that is supposed to be in French is automatically picked up. So here I do of FR underscore and I do it for every single string that I'm using in my application. Just let me know, Ajay, if there is any problems, any sort of queries that you have in the mid, I'm doing it. I hope this is clear till this point of time. If not, you can still respond back onto the chat window. All right. So what I have done is I have made the changes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the local here. So here I'll choose the local as French and I'll select French as the local for my device. Once I'm done, you can see all the changes have been gone into place. Now if I just do a run as of this application onto this particular emulator, it will show me everything in the French window. Let me show you that. Here I run my application. And you can see that everything is coming up in French. Even with respect to the menu also, you can see the menu settings are also coming in French language. You have just, what you need to do is just replace the values with the French strings inside the strings.xml file and it will automatically pick it up. All right, Ajay, I hope you'll be able to do it now. Okay.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, webinars made easy.
Let's move back to English because that is what we are comfortable with. I have to just check because now the French local has just gone off. I knew it. This is going to create a problem a little. Let's try this. All right, Ankit says, okay. Ankit says, my emulator is slow. How to boost it up? Ankit just wanted to know, have you got the graphics card installed on your machine? Alright, then what you need to do is, Ankit, just change the settings of the emulator. Whenever you'll be creating an emulator, you have access to change the settings of the emulator. In order to do that, if your emulator is slow to boost up, alright, boosting is something which is integral to your RAM that you are using onto the machine. Alright, so just make sure that you have a decent amount of RAM. No, Rojan, it has already got changed. I have changed it to English India. Alright, I have already changed it up. You can see that everything is now working as per the requirement here. Alright, let's go back to Ankit's question here. Alright, Ankit, as I said, it depends, the boost up of the emulator depends on the RAM that you are using. Alright, so sometimes the RAM is the machine RAM is the problem that creates the slow boosting up. Right, just make sure that you have decent amount of RAM running onto the machine, and even if it is not a boost up, let me tell you, the boost up might take some time sometimes, but just make sure that the emulator runs fine when you are running the applications on it. Alright, I guess few people have also joined in. Murli Rath has just joined in, and so has Ayush Mishra. I hope I'm audible to both of you. Murli Rath and Ayush, can you all respond back onto the chat window? I'll wait for Murli Rath and Ayush to respond back so that I can just know whether I'm audible to them or not. Alright, Murli has responded back. Alright, can I have the responses from Ayush as well? Ayush, are you able to hear me up? I just don't know what is the problem here. Alright, no problems. Let's start with the session. So this is the only query that we had for in the last session that we took. Can I have some responses? Any sort of doubts, any sort of queries in the last session that we had taken? I'll wait for everybody to respond back. If there is no query, you can just write a no. If there is any query, alright, good. Alright, Ayush seems to be not with us here. I just don't know. Okay. Let's start with this session that we have up for today. I hope we had covered till the on-click listeners and the on-long click listeners, on-touch listeners, on-keyboard listeners. I hope I'm correct in that aspect. Can anybody just recall where we landed off, or say where we were on the last class? Can anybody remind me up? Just wanted to check everybody's knowledge here. Alright, Murli says listeners. Ankit, what is that? Multiple screens? Alright, alright, so we finished off onto the listeners. So I hope everybody has tried all the listeners. Alright, we had a brief intro to listeners. Multiple screens also done. Okay, no problems. So Rojan, can you also respond back? What is the brief intro that you had? Were you able to say work on the listeners with the help of interfaces, or it was just the inline listeners that you had implemented? I'll wait for Rojan to respond back. If you have not worked with the interfaces, I'll just show you a demo of working with the interfaces. I guess we had debugged listeners to see when they were invoked. My question is a little different, Rojan. I'm trying to ask you whether we have worked with the listener interfaces, or we were working with the inline command listeners, inline click listeners. I'll show you a few samples here. If you see here, you were working with the inline ones. So nobody has tried the interface implementation of the listeners. Is that correct? No problems. I'll just cover it up in today's class for you. But in the meanwhile, if you all want, I can just show you a small example here. Alright. So here if you see, I've already created something. I'll just show it to you. Alright, not on this one. I'll just create one for you all so that you all can gain some references into how you'll be working with listener interfaces. Instead of doing it inline, right, you'll be working with interface listener. Because I'll give you an example here, just a little quick here. I'll just make changes to the layout here. I hope everybody is not familiar with the layouts yet, right? Because that is what we are going to cover today. We are going to cover the layouts, how we'll be placing our elements onto the screen and how we'll be making changes to it. Alright, so here I have created 3 buttons. I call this button 1, I call this button 2, I call this button 3. Alright, once I'm done, I'll just go to my main activity and I'll create few object references for the buttons. I say button 1. Similarly, I do it for the other ones as well. I say private button. Just let me know if there is any sort of query in the mid. I'll just stop and I'll just cover the query first and then resume again. Here I say private, I say button, and I call this button 3. So what I have done is I have implemented or say created 3 object references for the buttons. But now till this point of time they are not bound. They are not bound to the activity yet. So how am I going to bound this up to the activity? I say button 1 equal to, I do a typecasting here. Can anybody tell me why am I doing a typecasting here? Anyone? Anyone? Quick. I need everybody to be on their keyboards. Every time I'll be asking you questions here. Why am I doing a typecasting here? Because the value returned is of type, let me just check here, object types. So that the system knows that the button is of type 1. That's correct, Ajay, that is very correct from your end. Srinivas, not the right answer to it. I'll just tell you. It's like if you see here, find view by ID is taking as an input argument an integer parameter, and what it is returning, can you just see this up? What does it return to me? Can I have responses onto the chat window? Looking at the method signature. Alright, Trojan says it returns me a view. Right? So since it is a view, view is the parent class of all the views that I have in Android applications. Alright? So what I'm doing is I'm casting the parent so that I can have a child reference from it. Everybody got my point here? Alright, so that is why I need typecasting, because find view by ID returns me a view which is of the parent class. But what I want is I want a specific view of the child which is a button view. Or if you see here, if you look into the import as well, you'll see android.widget.button. So that is the view that I'm trying to typecast it to. Here I say button 3 and I do again a similar typecasting here. And I do a find view by ID which is going to return me a view. I say r.id.button 3. So here I have placed 3 buttons. Now let's take a scenario. If you talk about inline method invocation for the on-click listeners, here I'll be needing 3 methods for all these respective 3 buttons. Presently I have 3 buttons, but there might be a case where I might be having 20 buttons in my screen. That is a very common case that I might come across. So if I'm having to invoke every single button listener inline, I'll be having multiple lines of code. Everybody agrees with me or not? I'll be having huge line of code. My KLOC will always improve or say go on adding up. So here what I'm doing is I say implements on click listener. You see this android.view.view import will be done for my on click listener. Now I have to add the unimplemented methods. I hope people are comfortable with Java here. Whenever I'm going to implement an interface, I have to provide the underlying definitions to the functions that have been placed under the interface. Right? Anybody who disagrees here? Here I say int ID equal to, here I'm getting a return of the view. Whichever view got the click event, I'm being passed on the view using this onClick listener. So what I'll do is I'll say v dot give me the ID, which says view dot get ID will be giving me the ID that I'm using here. Can you all check this out? This ID will be returned to me whenever any view will be getting clicked. I can do a switch case here on the basis of what should be the basis of switch case here? Anyone? Right. Rojan, that's correct. So it has to be ID. Here I just change the values to the switch cases, copy the cases here and change it back for the other views. So I say button 2 and I say button 3. Alright, so here I have done that. Now what I need to do is I need to take actions. Alright, but before I take any actions, I also have to associate the buttons with the click listener. And this particular click listener has been associated with what? It has to be associated with this, that is my class reference, current class reference. Similarly, I do it for button 3. And I say this. Once I'm done with all the settings of the button click listeners, what I need to do is I need to check whether I have clicked onto a button or not. So here I'll be using something which is called a toast notification. Alright, Ajay says, what is the purpose of an on-click listener? Ajay, suppose there's a scenario wherein what happens is you click on a button and you want to navigate to some place. Very common example could be like you might have used the Temple Run game. Alright, you click on the head that comes up onto the front of the screen. Once you click or see, you get a tap here to continue or something, then you start some events. So it's majorly an event handling that we do with the help of on-click listeners. I hope this is clear to you now. Alright, so here I'm making a use of a toast notification which will just show on the screen for some time. Just to show whatever action has taken place. So here I say toast.make text. First of all, I have to give it the context. So can anybody tell me why am I using the main activity dot this as a context? Anyone who can think of about it if it's not been told yet? Anyone? Not exactly, Rojan. Not exactly that. Let me tell you, it's like whenever I have any UI element bound with any activity. Alright, so it is always better to have that particular UI element having the context of the activity that it is bound to. It's like I'm not having the application's context, rather I'm giving it the activity's context. So as soon as the activity goes out of scope or it finishes off, I'll be having the objects also destroyed. So it's in a way it's optimization of the resources. I hope this is clear to everyone what I mean by main activity dot this in terms of context. That's correct, Murli, you were close. What about application view is the question that is asked to me by Ajay. Ajay, if I say get application context in this case, that view will be in place for the application till the time the application is alive. Even if the activity closes down, that particular view will hold its reference till the time the application is there onto the screen. I hope this difference is clear to everyone. Alright, so let's give it a duration. So let me tell you, toast, whenever I raise a toast notification, it has to have a duration. So we have two kinds of underlined durations here. So I'll just use the shorter one and I finally show a toast notification. Whenever a button is clicked, I'll show the toast notification. I'll just copy this up, paste the values on button 2, just make the changes to the button text here, and similarly I do it for button 3. I'll just make the changes. Alright, and I'm good to go here. If I just do a run, this will show up on my emulator, and when I'll be clicking on the buttons, it will be implementing the on-click listeners, which penultimately will result in the button click listeners of mine. Alright, now it seems to be working here. Let me see what I have done here. I think I have to make changes. I think what I have done is, that's correct. I have actually launched the wrong intent filters. I hope everybody understands the intent filters here. If you see here, my intent filters were pointing to my second activity instead of the first one. Everybody understands what are intent filters? Very first activity that has to be locked. Alright, Ajay does not know it. Strange. Alright, let me tell you about this. Very first activity that has to be shown onto the view. Suppose I'm having an application that comprises of 10 activities, for example. What I have to have in that application is I need to have one activity as the launcher, or say the very first activity that comes into picture. Alright, after that I can make the navigation depending on my choices. But before that I need to know which is my first activity that has to be shown to the user. So this is the purpose of using intent filters. It identifies which activity has to be the first one to be launched. I hope this is clear to everyone. Ajay, Rojan, Sumanta, anyone having any doubts here? Here I click on button 1. It says click button 1. If I click on button 2, it says click button 2. If I click on button 3, I will say click button 3. So that is how we can use the interfaces in order to reduce the lines of code and also maintain a single point of contact for all the click listeners that I have in my application, or I would say in my activity. Any person having any doubts here?
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Webinars Made Easy.
Let me tell you all that it's very important to understand. Alright, Ajay wants me to cover up intent filters again. Alright, Ajay, I'll just show it to you. Ajay, if you see, can we implement more than one listeners? Definitely. Sumanta, I hope, alright, I'll take it like that. If I talk about Java, alright, we can implement multiple listeners in Java because it does not support multiple inheritance. I hope everybody understands what is multiple inheritance here. And how Java tackles multiple inheritance is known to everyone. So they do not let you extend two classes, but what they let you do is they can implement multiple listeners. So it is like Java's take on extension or say multiple inheritance. So what you need to do is you can have implementation of multiple listeners. If you see here, I say if I want to have implementation of on-click listener, along with that I want to have implementation of long-click listener. I can always do that. If you see here, if I want to have on-touch listener, I can have that. Alright, all I need to do is add all the unimplemented methods that come along with the on-touch listener and similarly the on-long-click listener. I hope now it is clear, Sumanta. Here you have the example for it. Alright, okay. So I was going back to Ajay. Alright, I was going back to Ajay's query here. Alright, Ajay, you were talking about the intent filters. Let me tell you, it's like if I'm having an application and my application comprises of 10 activities. Alright, so if you remember, the Android manifest file is the very first file that gets read even before the application is installed onto the device. Everybody agrees with me or not? Manifest is the very first file that gets read even before the application is installed. Now let's take a look here. If you see, there is an application tag under it. Can everybody check this out? Application tag I would say the application tag identifies what all activities I have in my application. So if my application contains 10 activities, I need to have those 10 activities listed here. Can everybody see this up? Can anybody tell me how many activities do I have in my project at present? Anyone? That's correct. That's correct. Sumanta has got it spot on and very quick. Good, good. No, Ajay, it's not 1, it's 2. All right, good. Everybody impressed by everybody's response here. Ajay, if you see here, 1 opening, 1 closing, and similarly 1 opening, 1 closing. So this comes up to be 2. Now let's take another example here. If you see, I have got an intent filter under activity 1, but I do not have any intent filters associated with activity 2. So what I'm saying in this intent filter is to activity 1 is that activity 1 has to be the main activity, and along with that it has to be in the category of the launcher activity. So it is like the very first activity that shows up on the screen is the main activity, and also the very first one that gets launched up whenever the application starts is the first activity. I hope now you got it, Ajay, or the difference, or say the intent filters or the role of intent filters. All right, so that is how you identify various intent filters. If I specify, if I just copy this intent filter or I cut this intent filter, place it under this activity will become the launcher and the main activity. All right, so it's like if I'm having 10 activities, I want to just swap the values or say swap the elements at runtime, whichever wants to be my first activity, I can play along with the intent filters. Any person having any doubts here? All right. All right, so that is how you can work with the implementing of the interfaces, and I think this is something which everybody should keep, or I would say everybody should make it a practice that you should be implementing the interfaces instead of working with the inline commands or say the inline listers. All right. So when we will be working on the project, I would assume that everybody will be using the interfaces instead of working with the inline listeners. All right. Just a point that I wanted to tell you all. Now let's talk about the layouts. All right. We have talked about the buttons, the click listeners. We have talked about how exactly is the folder structuring of Android application development, what all are the classes, what all are the packages that we can make use of. But all these things are irrelevant unless we have something concrete to show on the screen, right? A question for everyone. What is the difference between a view and a view group? I hope this would have been definitely covered in the last class. What is the difference between a view and a view group? Anyone? All right, Rojan says view groups hold many views. That's correct, Rojan. Let me have some responses back from others also. That's correct. That's correct. No problems, Sumanta. No problems. I think, if you haven't attended the last class, you would have got the video. You can look into the video once. All right. And if there is any problem, I'm always there for helping. Let me ask you a few things here. Suppose this is the screen that I have. All right. Under this screen, what I have is this particular element. Under this particular element, I have this element. Similarly, I have this element. Similarly, I have this element. Now what I have is I have this element. I have another element here. And I have one more element under it. All right. So here you have to answer me. What is this element? What is this complete element? Everyone. Is it a view? Is it a view group? Srinivas, I'm talking about the outer element. I'm talking about the outer element. All right. Apart from Srinivas, I think everybody has got it correct. Now let's talk about something else. Srinivas, I hope you got it. It's view group. It's not a view because it is having multiple views, view groups or views under it. So it is a view group. All right, let's move down now. All right, so here's a question. What is this? The second element under it. What is it? Is it a view group? Is it a view? Got it, got it. Good. Now let's talk about this element. What is it? All right, so I think the difference is clear to everyone, so we won't spend much time here. So everybody knows what is a view group and what is a view, all right? So let's talk, today we'll be talking about view groups, all right? We'll be talking about how we'll be creating view groups and how we'll be holding multiple views under the view groups. So we'll majorly cover up the construction, or say how we design a user interface in Android applications. We'll be covering this in today's class. So the layout is the architecture for the user interface in an activity. It defines the layout structure and holds all the elements that appear to the user. So whatever a user sees on the screen is something that is driven by a layout, alright? So you can declare the elements in the XML file, which we always do, like creating one, or you can also instantiate the layout elements at runtime. So there is also a possibility of instantiating all the elements at runtime. So let's talk about all the view groups. So we have the following kinds of layouts in Android application development. One is linear layout, then we have a relative layout, we have a table layout, we have a grid view, and we have a list view. Alright, so let's talk about all of these one by one. First, let's talk about a linear layout. Alright, let me open up Paint here just in case we might be needing a better clarity on the topics. A linear layout is of two types, right? So if I say I'm having a view group as linear layout and I'm having it as an orientation of horizontal, if I'm giving it an orientation horizontal, then how will my views be stacked up? Let me tell you about this. Suppose this is one text view under, or say, I would say just we have used the button at present, so I'll call it as button. So I have one button here, and if I try to add another button to this view group, it will be added here like this, adjacent to it. Similarly, a third button, so it has to be added like this. So what we call this behavior is, it is linear layout, horizontal mode. Alright, so it's like if I'm adding up views to a linear layout view group in the horizontal orientation. So what I need to have is all the views will be stacked up one after the other in the adjacent manner. Any person having any doubts understanding the linear layout creation in the horizontal orientation? Anyone having any questions, any queries, any doubts? I'll cover an example. Do not worry about that. Just the conceptual knowledge that I'm trying to. Does linear layout refer to portrait view? Not like that, Rojan. It's not the view. It is just the elements addition to the view group. It has nothing to do with the portrait or say the landscape orientation. It is the element addition of elements to the view group. Now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something else. If I want to have one view like this, one view like this, one view like this, can anybody tell me about this? What is it going to be? It has to be a view group which is of the type linear layout, but the orientation has to be alright, so it has to be a vertical oriented. So that means if I keep on adding views to this view group, they'll be added up or stacked up one below the other, or say one on top and one on top of one on top of other, one could be below the other. Alright, so that is the two variations that we have for the linear layout. Alright, by default, if I do not provide, let me tell you about this as also, if I do not provide any orientation attribute, if I do not provide any orientation attribute, it will be in horizontal orientation by default. Anyway, everybody got my point here? If I just remove the tag for the orientation attribute from the view group, it will always be in the horizontal orientation. Right? Any queries, any questions from anyone? Let's do a working example for this. I say test view groups. Alright, so here I have something, but I have a linear relative layout. First of all, what I need to do is, since we are not talking about relative layout, we are talking about a linear layout right now. Let's change it up to a relative linear layout. Once I have done that, I have to add up views to it. So let's remove this view from here. Go to the graphical representation and add up a few text views to it. Can everyone, I'll just zoom it up for everyone. Can you see what is the orientation of this view group now? Anyone? What is the orientation that I have for this linear layout? Srinivas says, well, alright, everybody is getting it correct. So it is the horizontal mode. But if you see here, I do not have any orientation attribute here. So it is picking up by default. Now if I just change here and I say orientation equal to a vertical one, now just see the changes that get dragged on to the graphical layout. Alright, so the portrait orientation or say the vertical orientation is shown here in the graphical layout. Let's do some changes here. I call it text view 1. I call it text view 2. Now let's consider a scenario. I think the difference between a horizontal and a vertical orientation is clear to everyone. Any person having any doubts here? Let me know about it so that I can just check. Alright. Now let me tell you another major attribute that we can associate with a view group. Suppose sometimes what happens is I might be having a linear layout and I might be having 3 buttons inside the linear layout. Now what I want is all the 3 buttons should be equally placed onto the screen. This is a normal scenario. Like it's like I'll just show you a graphical representation for this. For example, what I have is in this particular layout is I have a linear layout at the bottom here. Alright, and I need to have 3 buttons under it. The 3 buttons have to be equally, or I would say need to be equal of each other. Very common condition that you can come across. That is, size of the 3 buttons should be equal, right? Everybody agrees with me or not? Now let's take a look here how we are going to do that. So we have something which we call the layout weight attribute. If I just try out the layout weight attribute, and if I have to do it equally, I give it a layout weight as 1. If I give it a layout weight as 1 as well. Now see the changes that go into the graphical layout. Can you see this up? Text view 1, 50% of the screen space. Text view 2, 50% of the screen space. What do you understand by this? It is like I'm dividing. I'm dividing my complete. All right. No problem, Sumanta. I'll just explain it to you again. What I'm saying is, I'm giving my text views equal weight. Can you see this up? My view group contains only 2 views. And what I'm doing is, I'm assigning a weight property of equal, that is 1 and 1, to my view groups. If I'm doing it equally, that means my complete view group will divide the elements or the views into 2 equal portions in terms of space. If you want to share it 60-40, here is the option. Just give it a value 0.6, give it a value 0.4. If I go on to the graphical layout now, so this is 60 and this is 40. What about the width? Width is wrap content if you see here. Alright, width is wrap content. So if you give it a width of fill parent, it will automatically adjust. And let me also tell you, since you are using it in the vertical mode, so the weight property will only work on the height. Are you getting my point here? Just let me know if there is any sort of confusion, any sort of ambiguity in anybody's mind. Repeat. Alright, what do you want me to repeat, Ajay? Just let me know about it. Are you talking about the orientation part that I was talking about? Just let me know quickly, Ajay. What do you want me to repeat? That's correct. I was telling you about the width property. So if you see, I'm having the orientation as vertical. That being the case, I can only control the height with my layout weight parameter. Everybody getting my point here? Now I can only control the height because I'm having all the views stacked up one beneath the other. So I can only control the height. But if I have a layout orientation as horizontal, then it will be working on the width part. Samantha, just let me know if this is clear to you, because if there is no clarity here, I just see that there is no point in working on it. I hope everybody is getting it correctly, right? Any sort of queries, any sort of doubts? I'm not concerned with what we cover in today's class. I'm more concerned in whichever amount of coverage that we have should be understood to everyone. Can I have some responses back onto the chat window? Whether it is clear or not, just like this. If it is not, I'll explain it to you again. Do not worry on that part. Ajay, it's like if I have the orientation as vertical, then only the height will be working as weight. If I have the orientation as horizontal, right, then the height, then it is going to be the width that is going to take the weight property. Depending on the orientation, if it is vertical, height will be affected. If it is not, if it is horizontal, so the width will be affected. It's clear, but how to further control the width? In order to do that, Sumanta, Srinivas, what I need to do is, first of all, I need to change the orientation. Let's change it to horizontal. And now let's do it a 0.75 value, and let's give it a 0.25 value. And you'll see the changes. Have I made the changes again? Alright, I have to make the width as wrap content, because that is a problem here. Now you see that 75-25. Alright, Ajay says it means when we are working on horizontal, then we have to mention height too. Ajay, I'll just give you more clarity on this like this. Listen, it's like I'm having a view group which has got its children added up in a horizontal mode like this. I have a view group like this which is in horizontal mode. So every element will be added up one after the other. in the adjacent manner. Now let's talk about something that you're talking about. So if I'm having a weight property, so how should the weight property be affecting this view? Can you think about it? It will be affecting this particular view in width wise only. It cannot affect the height wise weight property. Because I can have either a wrap content to the height, either a fill parent to the height. Srinivas, it's like you have to think it in terms of developer's perspective. Just say, I'm having a height property as wrap content. For example, I hope the wrap content and fill parent difference is clear to everyone. Just let me know about it. What is wrap content? What is fill parent? Go ahead, Sumanta. The parent property is the one, Ajay, which is rendered to by the parent of the view. For example, I'm adding up views to my view group. All right. So my view group has a property of having a height. So the same height property will be given to its children if I do it a fill parent. All right. Sumanta says, how can I give space between two controls? Sumanta, if you want to give space between two controls, you have an attribute which says padding. If you just use the padding, it will do all the edges, pad all the edges with the respective size that you want to give. For example, you want to give it 5 DIP, that is density independent pixels. So now you'll be having a padding to this particular text view, which is going to be 5 DIP. That's correct. That's correct. Like table cells, you have a padding. Sure, Ajay, I'll speak a lot slower than what you want. Yes. All right. Now tell me, Ajay, what is the property? What is the question that you have about the parent property? I hope got resolved. All right. As I said, if you see here, I have a layout height property of this linear layout to be match parent. That is 100% of the screen size. Right? Now if I just do it a height property or say a width property to a fill parent here, what it will do is it will take up all the screen space what the parent has. The same screen space what the parent has will be provided to the child attribute also. Now let me know if this is clear to everyone, how I talk in terms of width wise, how I talk in terms of height wise, how I talk in terms of wrap content, how I talk in terms of fill parent. Any sort of questions, any sort of doubts? That's correct, Sumanta. It is like 100% width of the table. A cell has 100% width of the table. All right, let's quickly have a discussion here. Any doubts, any queries? If not, just write an N. If yes, just give me the query. All right, so it's clear to everyone, right? Let's move ahead then. So I have used the weight property, I have used the height property, I have used everything here. So when I talk about linear layout, so the linear layouts are the ones that stack up children in the vertical or the horizontal orientation, and you can see it onto the window. This is in what orientation? It is in vertical. Then we have the horizontal orientation of the linear layout. Now let's talk about a relative layout. Let me tell you about this particular layout. This relative layout is the one that is the most used layout while we draw our UIs. So let's create another one. Here I create a relative layout and I call it relative. All right. So here I have created a relative layout now. Now just see a few attributes of the relative layout which you feel like using in your real world UI designing. So what I have is I have a relative layout and all right. Now what I want is I want a text view, or you can think of it as label, which contains my name. All right. What I want is I want an entry box just in front of it, like to the right of this particular label. Similarly, I can have another name here. I say Murlirath. All right, and I can have another element added to right of Murlirath. But let me tell you, Murlirath is below my name, and similarly, the edit box for Murlirath is below my name. All right, then what I need is I need a button. I need a button which says sign in. I need a button which says sign up. If I'm going to do it with the help of a relative layout, how am I going to achieve this up? Anyone? If I'm going to do such kind of a UI generation with help of a linear layout, how am I going to do that? I need responses. I need responses very quick onto the chat window. Your fingers should be on the keyboards every now and then. That's correct. It is combining of layouts. All right. Now let's talk about if I have to go in with the help of a linear layout. Sumanta, what I will be needing is I'll be needing one linear layout in horizontal orientation. I'll be needing one more linear layout in horizontal orientation, and I'll be needing one more linear layout in horizontal orientation, right? So what I have is I have three linear layouts in horizontal orientation. Now let's talk about the complete one. The one that is holding all the three linear layouts have to be in the vertical orientation. I hope Ajay, you have got it spot on. So that is how we are going to do it with the help of linear layouts. Everybody agrees with me here? Anybody who disagrees with me? Anyone who disagrees with me here? Quick. All right, I'll just repeat it for you, Sumanta. Sumanta, what I'm saying is, if I have to have such kind of a UI structure, all right, what I need is, I need first of all a linear layout in the horizontal orientation containing a text view and an edit box. Sumanta, just let me know whenever you, all right, got it. Then I need another one, all right, beneath that, which will be holding again the two values in the horizontal orientation, right? Similarly, a third one, which will be holding two values. Now what I'm doing is I'm cascading all the three in a view group parent, which is in the portrait orientation or the vertical orientation. All right, so that is how am I doing it up. But if I want to do it out with the help of a relative layout, just see how easily I can do that. What I need to specify in this particular behavior is, I say my name, right? And I say edit box. I give the edit box a property which says to right of my name. For example, I have my name here. So I say to right of my name. Similarly, I do it for the second one, which contains Murli's name. And I say below. Here I give it a property below my name. Similarly, I do it a property for its sprite element, and I say give it a property which is below edit box my name, and again one more property which says to right of Murli's name. Everybody understands what I'm trying to do here? It's like I'm providing relativity to the views. One view has to be relative to the other views. So if I'm binding one view, I give it a position with respect to the other view. Any questions, any doubts here? That's correct. Samantha says, so it's like making a relation between the controls to keep the position, as how they have to be shown up on the screen is dependent on other views, not on its own, but on the other views. Can I have responses if this is clear to everyone? Any doubts, any queries? Let's move down now. All right, Akshay has just joined the class. I'm sorry about this, Akshay. It's just that we have covered around an hour's class. So I think you have to take a look at the recording only in order to cover up what we have done just now. Let me tell you, just to give you a brief about it, we have been working on the view groups. So the view groups are the ones that we use in order to create the user interfaces of any Android application. Akshay, just let me know if this is clear to you. If you need more clarity on what we are covering up, just let me know onto the chat window. Because it's just that we have covered 1 hour's class, right? Akshay, just respond back onto the chat window if this is clear to you. All right, let's take an example. Sure, Akshay, just let me know whenever you are not feeling comfortable with anything, just let me know onto the chat window, Akshay. All right? It's okay, I guess. All right. All right. So here I was talking about a relative layout. So let's do something fancy here. One text view that holds my name. I'll do the same UI construction that I was talking about. I give it a name. All right. Go on to the graphical again and drag and drop a text field here. All right. Now go again. Right, give it a name. All right, so here I just changed the name. Since Akshay has just joined in, let's give it his name. Now again, go back to the graphical representation and give it a text box. Right? Now what I was having is, I was having 2 buttons also. Let's go here. Give it a button. Give it a button 2. All right, now I am done. Let's change the name of the buttons. I say sign in. And I also do a sign up. Go to the graphical representation. Just zoom it up for all of you. I think this is the layout that we wanted. Right? I hope this is what we wanted to create, right? Can I have responses back onto the chat window? Now let's go on to the relative layout and see what all I have in properties section. I have a text view. So this is my text view. If you see, my text view has got 2 properties. It says align parent left equal to true, and it says align parent top equal to true. So these properties are automatically generated for me whenever I'm doing a drag drop, right? So it says what I have to do is I have to align this particular text view on top of the parent. It has to go onto the top and also to the left, right? I hope this is straightforward property that you're using here. Let's go to the edit text property. What do you see here? Can everybody see this property here? What does this property say? I was telling you about this property. What does this property say to the text view or say the edit box? That's correct. Samantha says it has got a property which says align it to the right of the property that is having ID as text view 1, which is this property. Agreed, disagree, agree, disagree, just quick. Right. So here I have the text view which is having I have an edit box which is having a property to right of, and also another property which says align parent top. What does that mean? It has to go on to the top of the parent. Parent is having all the complete wrap width property. Let's talk about Akshay here. So here you see a few properties. What does it say? Align parent left equal to true. So it's left aligned. So that is right property that I have. Now see the property. It says layout below edit text 1. Edit text 1 is this view group of mine. It says just align this view below the edit box. Can you all see this up? However, I can also give it an alignment below the text view 1. Let me tell you all this, because that is one and the same thing for me, right? Everybody agrees, disagrees? That is the same for me, right? Can I have some responses back onto the chat window? I hope I'm not going too fast here. All right. Now let's talk about, sure, I'll just show you the XML again. Do you want to see the graphical representation, Sumanta, or do you want to go into the code at present? Just let me know about it. Code we'll be covering up just after we finish up the complete part. I'll let you all look into the code, but for that I need to first cover up the complete part. That's correct. I need to cover up the complete part so that you can relate to the code once. Let's go on to the edit box. What are the properties that are associated with the edit box? It says align left with the edit text 1. So if you see, my left edit box is aligned with left to the one on top. And everybody just check this out. This alignment is left to be true. That is, the left of the first one should be the left of the second one. Everybody agrees here, disagrees here, quite very quickly. And the second property, what it says is align the top of this view to this particular text view. Align the top of this view to the text view's top. All right. So if I'm aligning the left and if I'm aligning the top, so it automatically goes to the right of text view 1. But if I do not do this, instead I remove these properties and I just give a property which says to right of. Let me copy the property completely here, which I just say align this, just align this to right of. To right of what? It says text view 2. I just give this property here. It will also do the same purpose for me, apart from aligning the left and top. All right, I think I have missed out some property. I'll layout to left off, to right off. I also have to provide a below attribute, and the below attribute has to be below what? Edit text 2. Edit text 1 instead. Once I do that, it should show up on the graphical representation. Got my point? So it's not necessary that we use the same properties. We can always make changes to the properties as and what our needs are. That's correct, Srinivas. It is possible to control the height and width. Usually, let me tell you about this. We always have the height and width properties to wrap content. I hope everybody understands the difference between a wrap content and a fill parent here. Any sort of queries that you have in the wrap content and fill parent, you can respond back onto the chat window. So that is what we have. We always have the properties to wrap content and fill parent. Okay, you do not know the difference between a wrap content and a fill parent? Just let me know. All right, I'll just cover it up for you. All right, okay, just consider a scenario here wherein I have a text view which is holding text like this. All right, so this is my text view. If I give it a property of width to be wrap content, so it will take up this much of screen space. However, if I give it a width property of fill parent, it will take up the complete screen space irrespective of the text it contains. Got my point here? Similar for height. If a text view of mine contains a property as wrap content, so the height will be allocated only till the view is visible. That is how much height needs to be allocated to the view. If it is full parent, it will take up the complete screen space. Alright, so I was telling you about these properties. Now let's talk about buttons. What do you have in the buttons? It says align right to text view 1. So you see it is aligned with the right to the text view 1. You can see that. The dotted line shows that. And the other property, it says below edit text 2, which is this particular edit text. It says it has to be below this. Align the right to this particular view and below this text view. And also I have some margin on top. If I just remove this margin, this will move up a little. Right? Let's go to sign up. Align baseline. What does that mean? It means the base of both the buttons have to be the same. That is, the bottom of the buttons have to be the same. So it says align baseline button 1. Align the bottom as well of button 1. Even if I do not add this attribute, this will work the same. You can see that this will work with the same if I do not add this attribute. It says align left to edit text 2. So the left is being aligned to edit text 2. And it gives me a margin. So that is why the aligning is improper here. Now it will be aligned to edit text 2. Right? Any person having any doubts here? Any questions? Any queries? I need everybody to respond back. I think I have 8 attendees. I have just got 1 response. Alright, so that is how we work on the relative layout. In order to change the layout, what we need to do? I just need to change the layout here in my main activity. Can anybody tell me where I have to make the changes? Anyone? Does anybody remember this layout file? I think am I doing it right? Should the changes work here? The changes that I have done here, should they work here? And here you see a relative layout in progress, right? You can key in anything onto the edit boxes. You can key in anything onto the edit boxes. The buttons are non-functional yet, but I have told you about the on-click listeners, so I think you can make them functional, right? So this is what we talk about in terms of a relative layout. Alright, so every single element is relative to each other. So that is what is meant by a relative layout. Alright, can we have a 5 minutes break here? Just let me know if everybody is fine with a 5 minutes break here. Alright, I'll just show the code here. In the meanwhile, let me have some water. I'll just show you all the code here. So one thing, if it is possible, please send me the last class recording. That would be very best for me. I need to go through because I'm feeling very comfortable with your exploration style, and if possible, please let me know your Skype and email ID. We'll keep in touch. No problem, Samantha. If you all want, I just share my email ID with everyone. Alright, so this is my email ID that you can contact me on, and let me also tell you about my Skype ID. It is amit.sharma2909. So this is my Skype ID. If you want, you all can add me up on Skype. Just let me know, let me tell you about this. I might be able to respond to all your queries only on the weekend. Alright. So if I'm not able to respond to anybody's query, alright, just do not mind this because I'll be getting it done on the weekend. Alright. So here I'm going for a 5 minutes break here. So I think everybody can look into the activity main.xml, relative layout.xml. Alright, the code of the main activity, okay, I'll just let you have it. It does not contain anything as such. I'm just setting up a layout to my window. To my activity, I'm just setting up a layout, okay. It's like I'm just loading an XML file to be shown onto the screen. You can take it like that. I hope everybody has received my email IDs and my Skype IDs, right? So that is where you all can come, say contact me or just write me an email and I'll be responding back to you, right? That's correct. That too, one line is auto generated, okay? It is just that I have made the changes in the layout parameter here. Alright, give me 5 minutes here. I'll be back in just 5 minutes. Do not go anywhere. You all can also have some water and some quick breakfast if you feel like. Alright. Alright everyone, I'm back here. I hope everybody is here with me. Just let me know onto the chat window if everybody is here with me. I hope nobody has gone too far with the breakfast thing. Alright. So I hope the relative layout is clear to everyone. Any sort of queries, any sort of questions in the relative layout? I still haven't got responses from a few candidates. Let me just check so that they do not miss out on anything. Sumanta is still not here. Srinivas is here, alright. Sumanta and Ajay, can you all respond back? Alright, Murli just had lunch. So the different time zones is playing its part here, Murli. Ajay, are you with me here? Ajay, respond back very quickly, mate, so that I can just know. Alright, so let's begin. Alright, so I was telling you about relative layout. Any sort of questions, any sort of queries in understanding the relative layout, you can respond back onto the chat window. If it is clear, just write a yes. If it is any doubts, just give me back the doubt. Alright, only one has responded. Alright. Now let's talk about a table layout. All right. So a table layout is a layout that arranges its children into rows and columns. A table layout consists of a number of table row objects, each defining a row. Let me tell you about this. I think I've closed my paint here somehow. I'll open it again. Let's see a scenario here. Complete, what is it? Complete I have as a table layout, all right? Now what I have inside a table layout is every single row that I have inside a table layout is called a table row. All right, so there is a table row 1, there is a table row 2, and here is a table row 3. Now every single row need to have number of columns. Is that correct? So if I talk about a table layout has a column property associated inside its table row. So I cannot have number of columns added to the table layout, but I can have the rows added to the table layout, and then finally the table row will be having the number of columns. Right? Now a few questions for everyone. What you can relate to when I talk about a table row? I have already covered one example of a similar layout that you can relate to when I talk about a table row. Which layout can you relate to it? All right, good, very good, Ayush. That's correct. All right, everybody got it correct. All right, so it's like multiple linear layouts in the horizontal orientation comprise a table layout. I hope I'm saying it correctly here. It's like multiple linear layouts in the horizontal orientation mode comprise a table layout. And if I talk about a linear layout, a single linear layout in a horizontal orientation, what I would call is, I would call it a table row, right? Now let's take an example for this. This is very straightforward. Let me tell you about this. Table row is very straightforward, and it is majorly used whenever we need to have a similar kind of a table kind of a structure. Sure, I'll tell you, okay? Okay. So Akhil wants me to tell you the linear layout. Akhil, what happens in linear layout view group is that suppose you are adding up children views to a view group. They can be added in one of the two modes, like this, or they can be added up like this. All right. So if I have to add up like this, I call this a linear layout horizontal orientation. If I add it up like this, I call it a linear layout in vertical orientation. I hope this is clear to you, okay? All right. So we were talking about a table layout. Let's go and create a table layout here. Go under layouts, go on to new, go on to Android XML file here. And what we have to choose, can anybody tell me? We choose a table layout here. All right, got it, Akshay. So I'll use your name now, no problems. It is just that what I'm seeing onto the window is, okay, so that's the problem. All right, so here I call it a table. I call it a table layout, right? Here I have the table layout. What I need inside a table layout? Everyone, can I have some responses? What I need inside a table layout? That's correct. So here I'll just drag one table row. I'll drag another one. I'll drag another one. So I have added 3 table rows to my table layout. Now let's go back here, add up a button to every particular window. I think the table layouts have got a property. Let's copy this up and just cut it down and add it up to a table row. 2 buttons to every table row. Now see, what do I have here? I have 2 buttons per table row, right? Here you go again. Layout weight comes into picture equally. Can anybody tell me, do I have a weight property in relative layout or not? It is something that I want everybody to think about. Can I have, or I would rather put it like this. Can I have a weight property in a relative layout? Anyone? I need reasons, Ankit. Why do you not think so? Sumanta says also, guessing work is not something that I'm interested in, Sumanta. All right, got it. Good. Good, Ankit. Impressive. All right, Ajay, impressive. All right, so it's like what Ajay, Ankit and Sumanta are telling me is that since we already have the relativity in place, so the weight would lose its purpose. Because what you are doing is you are assigning every element to be relative to other elements. So if you try to add a weight property to it, the weight property will lose everything. It's like will lose its actual implementation, will lose the very basic behavior of using the weight property. So that is why we do not have a weight property in the relative layout. All right. I hope everybody agrees with me here. This batch is really something I must tell you that people are really interactive and people are really good at understanding concepts. All right. So here you see a table layout in place. All I need to do in main activity is just change this particular layout. Okay, I think weight property, for the weight property you have to look into the video session, because at present it will be very complex for you to understand the weight property. I'll just request you to look into the video session, and if you do not understand, all right, we can have it tackled in the next class. Okay, Akshay. All right, let's see a table layout in picture. So this is how a table layout looks like. Button click listeners, I've already told you, I think you people will be working on it, right? Can I have this assurance from everyone? All right, so here we go, and how we use the table layout. So as I said, table layout looks like this, but a question here for everyone. All right, what one can think of in a table layout, all right, what should be, here is my question for everyone, what should be the maximum space that is allocated to any table layout? What should be the maximum space if I'm giving every single table row a property of wrapping the content, all right, and I'm having 2 views in table row 1, 3 views in table row 2, and again 4 views in table row 3. What should be the property of wrap content on the table layout? Should it be containing wrap content for 4 objects in the table row, for 3 objects in the table row, or for 2 objects in the table row? I hope everybody got my question here. Akshay says 2. No, it's not such, Sumanta, it's not column span. It's not something like that. All right. Ankit says scrolling option should be enabled. Let me tell you about this, Ankit. Table layout does not have the auto scrolling option enabled. If you want to have the scrolling enabled, you need to put the table layout under the scroll view. All right, Ajay says 4, Murli says 4, and that is the right answer to it. It is going to be the maximum number of views inside any table row. All right. I hope everybody got my point here. Now let's talk about something which we call the grid view. All right, so a grid view is a view group that displays the items in a two-dimensional scrollable grid. You can think of it like this. A concept that I need to talk to everyone about the grid views with respect to Android. This is my screen here. And this is the grid view that I have. Now let's consider a scenario here wherein I just need to replace names. Akshay, I'm using your actual name here. And let me also find one more. I shall take. Okay. So what I'm having presently here is a grid view that contains all the names that I have, or I would say few of the names I might have left out. So all the names that I have inside this patch. Now consider a scenario of having a single layout like this and swapping the values that I have to replace on the grid view. What would you suggest? Should I have all the different views to be loaded, or should I have the single layout being reused again and again by swapping the values that I have onto the grid view? What is a better option in terms of memory conservance for me? Akshay says it's one layout and we should be thinking about reusing them. All right. So that concept of reusing in Android applications is called an adapter. This concept of reusing a single layout for every single element is called an adapter in Android. Let me tell you, whenever we'll be working with the list views, grid views, spinners, or what we call the drop downs, we will use adapter concept. So what exactly the adapter concept says is that whenever I will be creating a grid view, a list view, or an adapter of spinner, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array of objects, pass on the layout, a single layout, to the adapter along with the array. So what it does internally is it calls on its getView method one by one till the time I have elements in my array. All right. So what it will do in this particular scenario is use the layout, swap the value, use the layout, swap the value, use the layout, swap the value, and get it up as a complete element. I hope everybody understands what I mean by an adapter. Adapter in its acute sense means give it a data source, give it a layout, and it will automatically populate every layout with its properties, or say with the data set that is being provided to it. Anyone having any questions, any queries, any doubts? I'm saying, Ajay, what I'm saying here is that suppose I have to have an adapter. I need to use an adapter. So I need few parameters to be used with the adapter. One has to be the array of objects that I'm going to pass to the adapter, and one has to be the layout that is being used by the adapter in order to swap those values. I hope now it is clear to you. Any other person having any doubts? Sumanta, I hope this is clear to you. That's correct. That's very correct. Okay, Akshay has given to me something. He says like text view. That's very correct. Okay, Akshay, it's like the layout that I'm giving might be a text view. Is adapter required or scenarios where number of rows and columns are variable? Srinivas, adapter is a requirement. Adapter is a requirement. It is not something which is scenario based, because the list views and the grid views and the spinners, if they have to populate some data, they'll always make use of the adapters. It is like an object. Ajay, I'll just show you an example. Do not worry on that part. I'll show you an example for that. What is AB adapter? What, Ankit, can you just come back with your question here again? What is an adapter and how to implement it? That is what we are covering, Ankit. That is what we are covering. All right. I hope after we finish this example, you will be able to better understand the adapter concept. So here I need to first of all create a grid view. I choose the grid view here and I call it grid layout. So here I have the grid view with me. All right. Let's give it an ID. ID naming convention @ +ID / name of the ID. So here I give it a grid ID. Go back to main activity. Instead of referencing the table layout, now we'll be using a grid layout. Once we have the grid layout with us, we also have the object reference of the grid view, because that is what we'll be working on. I say grid, do a typecasting here. Once I have the grid in place, what I need to have is array. Let's create a static array of string. Let's give it a few values. For example, all the days in a week. Alright, so here I have given the array. Once I have given the array, what I need to do is, I need to first of all create an array adapter. Let's create an array adapter. Array adapter holds objects of type strings here, For me it is holding strings because I'm having all these strings. I call it adapter. I give it a new array adapter. It is asking me for a context. So I give it main activity.this. Then the resource ID, I say android.r. Alright, small a and the android.r.layout.simple list into one. Alright, so this is a default Android layout that I'm using in order to show the elements onto the grid view. Alright, finally I have to pass in the array to it. Once I'm done, my adapter is ready. Alright, so my data set is ready. Now what I need to do is I need to pass on. Alright, Akshay, I think the find view by ID I have already covered. Akshay, it's just been covered in the class. So I would again request you to go to the video once because it's just that we have a lot to cover. As I said, if you do not find anything, you all have my email IDs, you all have my Skype IDs, alright? So you can respond back to my email if there is any sort of doubt that you have. I say grid.set adapter, name of the adapter that I have specified here. Once I have done that, alright, so my grid view is ready. If I just do a run here, you will see my grid view in functional. Alright, Akshay, I hope you understand my problem here. But I have given you a good explanation. I think I have given you a good explanation in the video. Alright, so this you see, a grid view. But at present what you see is that the number of columns in a grid view is 1. Let's make it a 2-dimensional grid view. Just add a property here which says num columns. Give it a num columns of 2. And if you now do a run as, it will be splitting the grid view into 2 columns each. Here you see that, right? Now let's also work on the click listeners for the grid view. So here I say grid, I copy this up, set on item click listener, create a new on item click listener, do the necessary imports, add the unimplemented methods, terminate this with a semicolon here. So what it will do to me in the on item click is just see the adapter arguments. It says the adapter view, that is which item or say which view from the adapter took the click event. It gives me the complete adapter. Now this particular argument gives me the view of the adapter that took the click event. Int arg2 gives me the position from the array of elements or say from the data set which position has been clicked. The long argument tree also does the same for me. Alright, so these are the various parameters to the on item click listener that I have for the grid view. We'll just run a toast notification here on what item got selected. I hope the parameter list is clear to everyone. I hope everybody is with me here. No responses onto the chat window for quite some time now. I hope it's just that I'm teaching very good here, or it's just that people are not understanding. Only one of the few cases can be here. Alright Murli, if you say all good, then it is all fine. So here I say the item selected. Here I have to give you the item which got selected. So I have the array of elements. The integer argument 2 gives me the position. So it will give me the position of the array. I have to change the array to final because now changes are not allowed into the array. And I finally show a toast notification. Alright, let's stop here and check Alright, so let's check whether this is clear to everyone till this point of time. What am I doing? Creating a string array. Alright, Ajay says on item click listener. Ajay, on item click listener is the click listener that is invoked onto the grid view whenever I click on any item. It's very much like the on click listener for any particular button. It's very much like that. It is just that since whenever we work on a grid view, alright, so we have multiple items in the grid view, so that is why we call it an on item click listener. Again, the same can be implemented. Let me tell you about this. The same can be implemented also. Alright. Now let's run this up and see the on item click listener in place. Could we change ARR argument 2 to lookup from adapter? Sure, we can do that, Murli. In that case, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to typecast the adapter to an adapter object. Then whichever element would have got selected, you have to find out the index from it. And then again, the same process has to be done on the array. So it is like a two-way process that you will be doing, which can be done in a single-way process. Murli. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. Just let me know, Murli, because if it is not clear, I'll just explain it to you again. So here I click on the items. It says the item selected as Friday. Similarly, if I click on Tuesday, it says the item selected as Tuesday. I hope, Murli, the question that you had is that you wanted to work with this element ARG0, right? In order to do that, what you need to do is, first of all, you have to cast this up to an adapter concept, that is array adapter. Then from the array adapter, you have to pick up the value that got selected using the view argument. And then again, finally, you have to search into the array of elements. All right. And if you have to use a listener class, Murli, in that case, the implementation will be different. If you implement the on items click listener, it will give you an on item click listener with all these argument list, Murli. It won't be giving you only the view that got selected. So the implementation of the method will be different if you try to implement this particular one. So it is going to be, if you talk about the inline processing and if you talk about the implementation processing, both the processing are similar. Alright, you do not find any change in it. It is just that if you do it inline, you'll be doing the same lines of code again and again. If you do it from the interface, you do it only at a single place. I hope you got my point, Murli, here. Alright, so this is how we work with the grid views. Alright. But if you won't have access to the array, you will have access to the array if you declare this as a class variable, Murli. If you declare this as a class variable, you will definitely have the access to the array. All right. All right. So here is a grid view example. Now let's talk about a list view example. So a list view is a view group that displays a list of scrollable items. Let me tell you one or few things more. The grid view, this list view are the elements or the view groups that have got the auto scrolling enabled. So if the elements reach from, say, exceed from what we have in the view, it will give you an auto scrolling embedded onto the grid view and the list view. So similarly to the grid view, the list items are automatically inserted to the list using an adapter. So it is an adapter that does the insertion of elements into the list. Let's take an example. Just see how little changes I'll be making to this grid view method in order to make it functional for the list view. Just see how little changes I do have to make. Create an Android XML file using the list view. I say list view give it an ID. Alright, here I go into the main activity. Instead of the grid view, what am I going to refer to now is list view. Remove the object of the grid view, call it list view object, I call it list. Change back the references, list equal to list view, find view by ID. I do a list here. Alright, set the adapter to the list view. Just see the changes. I'm not making many changes here. How many of you believe that this should work for me? Only the object changes. Only the object changes. Instead of the grid view, I'm using a list view object now. How many of you believe that this should run fine? The reason why it should run fine is because list view and the grid view are very much similar in implementation. Got my point here? List view and grid view are very much similar. It is just that list view is a single dimensional, a grid view is a two dimensional. Sumanta, I have already answered it. The difference between a grid view and a list view. It is just that a list view is a single dimensional while a grid view is a multi-dimensional. See, my click listeners working fine. Right, so that is how, so is the table layout still working? No, Akshay, if you see I'm referring to a different layout every time I'm doing a run as. I'm referring to a different layout. If you see here, I'm referring to a different layout. Alright, both will produce scroll bar on demand. That's correct, Sumanta. Depends on the situation, Ajay. As I said, if you have to show something which is multi-columnar, then you'll be using a grid view. If you have to show something that is single column, then you have to use a list view. Right? Now let's talk about widgets. Alright, so I think we are done with the view groups. Any person having any doubts in the view groups, I'll wait for a 2-minute break here for everyone to give me any questions that they have in the view groups till now. What all view groups we have covered? If you have any questions, I'll give you all 2 minutes to respond back onto the chat window. If it is all clear, just give me 2 minutes to have some water. I'm not clear with implementation part. What is that? That is not clear, Ankit. Just let me know about it. Just let me know about it, Ankit. What is not clear? Ankit, I'm waiting for your response. What is not clear? The other than inline feature. The other than inline feature, I told you, Ankit, it's like something that you have to implement using the interface. Like, see, I'm doing it for you. Once I do that, so here I get all this thing. You see, the signature is absolutely the same. Can you see this up? Signature is absolutely the same, Ankit. So that is what I was telling Murli here. I hope now it is clear to you, the other than the inline feature. Srinivas, the example that we have covered, let me tell you, the example of the grid layout that we had covered is a two-dimensional one. You see two columns and multiple rows. Srinivas, just let me know if there is any doubt here. The example that we had covered is of two-dimensional grid view. It is mine, Murli. It is mine. I'm sorry, I cannot control him. All right. He doesn't listen to me. That is the problem. That's correct, Ajay. As I said, if you see here, I'm doing it with the help of an implementation. Only I think he is not liking that what you are saying about him. Okay. Ajay, I hope this is clear to you. Ajay, just respond back quickly, mate, so that we can understand a little bit. Okay, Ajay, tell me what is not clear here. I think that is the best part. If you practice it on your own, and if you face any problems, I'm always there to help you out. Ajay, right? Now let's talk about a few views. We have all talked about a view group. We have all talked about how we'll be adding views to the view groups. Now let's talk about a few views that are very peculiar and very good to use in our application creation. So let's first of all talk about a toggle button. How many of you have used the Wi-Fi state manager? You switch on the Wi-Fi, you switch off the Wi-Fi on your Android devices. So what now, it's just that till now we were working on it from a user's perspective. All right, I have got a hand raised. Let me just check. Yes, Ankit. All right. I think you did it by mistake, right? All right. So that is something which is a toggle button, which you see on the UI is actually a toggle button. So a toggle button is something which has two states. It can be either in the off state, it can be either in the on state. Let's create a new layout for the views that we are going to cover now. Let's give it a linear layout. All right, so here I have a view group. Let's add up a toggle button to it. Here I have added two toggle buttons, all right? Go on to the main activity. I'll just comment these pieces of code because now we'll be working on a different view altogether. So here I go on and I create two object references of the toggle buttons. I call one toggle 1. I call the other one toggle 2. Alright, so here I reference the toggle buttons from the XML part. I do it a toggle button. I find view by ID. Toggle button 1. Similarly, I do it for toggle 2. Let me tell you a few things about toggle buttons, check boxes, radio buttons. They are part of a family. They are part of a family which is called the compound buttons. Right? So can everybody repeat what is the family that they are part of? The toggle buttons and the check boxes and the radio buttons. They are called the compound buttons, right? So here if I do an on-checked change listener, can you see this up? Which says android.widget.compound button. If I do an import here, and if I just add the unimplemented methods, I'll be getting an unimplemented method for checked change stub. I'll just tell you how am I going to use this. Alright, what you did in 17 and 18. What is that? 17 and 18. Akshay, what is that? Are you talking about these two lines? These two lines are actually creation of objects that I can reference to from my XML part, Akshay. So once I have the button with my activity, I need to reference these buttons with my application. So that's what I'm doing here. Akshay, I hope this is clear to you. What it's like creating object references that can be checked up or set up with the help of the XML part. Let me know if there is any doubt. So here I have created two toggle buttons, associated the on item click listeners with the toggle buttons, or say the checked change listener to the toggle buttons. So the checked change listener is something whenever the state of the toggle button will change, that is from on to off or vice versa, it will call the on checked change listener. So whatever implementation I need to make, I'll be making it up into the on checked change listener. I'll just copy up the toast notification from here. And here I go on to the on checked change listener. First of all, I have to find out the ID. So my button view will give me the ID. So here I have the ID. Let's do a switch case on the basis of ID. The key has to be ID. The value has to be r.id.toggle button 1. And similarly, I have to use the second ID. I say toggle button 2. Alright, now have the necessary actions against it. So if you see, I'm being returned a boolean variable is checked from here. So what can anybody refer or say, relate to what is the value of or is checked here? What could be the value of is checked being passed here? Anyone? That's correct. Sumanta says it will give me a true and false. Alright. The true and false state is selected on the basis of whether the toggle button is in the on state or it is in the off state. I hope this is clear to everyone. Whether the toggle button is in the on state or in the off state. So let's copy this up. Let's raise a toast notification representing the state of the button that got selected. So I say the toggle button one, and I say is, I just copy this up and replace this up with the value is checked. So it will return a true if it is in the on state. It will return a false if it is in the off state. And I'm good to go here. Alright, so here I have the toggle button up. Alright, it says force close. Let me see where the crash was. Gives me a null pointer exception. On create 1 is 7. Alright, so it says toggle button 1 is not being instantiated. It is giving me a null pointer exception here. Alright, so I have the toggle button reference here. Alright, have I not changed the layout? Let me just check. Alright, the layout is missing here. So that's the reason for the null pointer exception, because it is not finding the toggle buttons inside the table layout, inside the list view that I had given here. Right, now it will run fine. So I hope everybody knows how to check your application's crashes. You go into the DDMS, look for the crashes that are all in red, and just find out a cause for it. Here you see, and it says the toggle button 1 is true because it is in the on state. If I select here, it says the toggle button 2 is true. If I select back, button 1 goes false. Similarly, button 2 goes false. So if you feel like using the toggle buttons in your application creation, that is how you'll be using toggle buttons. This is a very straightforward approach of using toggle buttons, wherein you just implement the on check change listener, check whether the toggle button is in the on state and do some action depending on it. If it is in the off state, do not do any action on it. Any person having any doubts here? Any questions, any queries in the usage of toggle buttons? You can respond back onto the chat window. Sure, I'll show you the switch case project. Here is the switch case. Alright, Ajay says how it returns true or false. You see Ajay, on the on check change listener, it is returning me a value. It is returning me a true or false value. So that is what is being checked here. Alright, Akshay says, can you tell me how is this on click thing working with the toast? If you see Akshay, what I'm doing is, if the case matches, alright, whenever I have the on check change listener called, if the case matches, I just call a toast notification. So that is how the toast is working inside the switch cases. Any person having any doubts here? I hope this is not too complex. If it is, just let me know about it so that I can give you another better explanation. Boolean is a parameter and not a return type. That's correct. It is not a return type. It is a parameter that is being provided to me. Sure. Akshay, I'll just tell you about the line 65. What line 65 is doing, it is creating a toast notification on the toggle button's click event. That is, if my toggle button 1 was clicked, right? So it is showing me whether it was selected or not. That is what it is doing here. It is just a message that is being displayed onto the UI action. Just let me know if this is clear. If not, just let me know if what is not clear here. How it is working, Akshay? As I said, I create an object of toast. I call the make text method on the toast, which takes input arguments as the context, the text that it needs to show, and after that the duration of the showing, how much long do you want it to show. And I finally call a show on it so that it just becomes visible on the screen. Then similar to a toggle button, we have another implementation which is called the checkbox. So checkboxes, I hope everybody would have used them. They allow the user to select one or multiple options from a set of options. So you should present each checkbox option in a vertical list. Let me show you an example for this. Let's go on to views.xml, drag and drop a checkbox here. Call this checkbox 1. I call this checkbox 2. Alright, and now I go on to my main activity, create object references for the checkboxes. I call one check 1. I call the another one check 2. Once I'm done, I'll just refer to them from the XML part. I do an r.id dot checkbox 1. And similarly, I do it for checkbox 2. Once I have done that, I have to associate the unchecked change listener to them. So I'll just copy this up, add them up to check 1 and check 2. Once I'm done, I need to make changes to my on-click also. I have to add up cases for the check 1 and check 2. There I say checkbox 1. Here I say checkbox 2. Alright, so here I have to make the changes. I say the checkbox rest all will be taken care by itself, because whichever view will take the click event will show me the is checked status and raise an appropriate toast notification. So here you see, if I click on checkbox 1, it says state is true. If I click back, it says state is false. Similarly, I do it for checkbox 2. Alright, I guess I have not replaced the values here. Alright, now it will run fine. Alright, so here if I click on checkbox 2, it says checkbox button 2 is true. If I click back, it says it is false. Any person having any questions in understanding the checkboxes can let me know onto the chat window. This is very much like using a toggle button. It is very much like that. I can have some responses back onto the chat window if this is clear to everyone. I need everybody to be responsive enough. I know this is a long session. Can we edit the text true and false? It's like we won't be editing the text true and false. Boolean, it's like a boolean. Ankit, it's not a text, it is a boolean, right? So we might not be able to edit, but we can take some actions depending on the boolean value returned true and returned false. So if you want like that, you can create a string variable. If it is true, set some value to the string variable. If it is false, set some value to the string variable. Alright, so Manta says, is there any concept of checkbox list? Means I want a list option dynamically. So Manta, in order to generate dynamic views, I'll show you how you can do that. I just want to get help with how you are joining Toast with the rest of the code. Akshay, let me tell you about this. The Toast is not the one. It's like merely a dialogue. You can link to it as a dialogue box. Akshay, there is nothing fancy that I'm doing in order to join the Toast with the code. It is merely a notification of the user input. Whatever user has chosen, I'm just displaying it up with the help of a, I would say, a text. You can think of it like that. I hope this is clear to you, Akshay. Just let me know if not, because this is not something which is very cumbersome. It is just a mere message that is being displayed. Alright, Sumanta wants me to do some dynamic checkboxes. So in order to do that, Sumanta, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give my linear layout an ID. I call it @ plus ID / linear. I call it parent, right? So here I go on, create an object reference of a linear layout. I call it linear parent. I reference this from the XML part. So here are the linear layout. Now I'll be adding up views to the linear layout. So I say linear parent. Here what I'll do is, suppose I want to add 10 checkboxes. I do a for I is less than 10. I say checkbox CB equal to new checkbox. Give it a this context. I say CB dot set text. I give it a text. I say checkbox, and here I add up the value of I. Here if I want to assign an ID to it on the runtime, I say set ID. I give it a value of ID 1. That is ID 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till the time I get 10 checkboxes. Right? Now here I do linear parent dot add view, and I just add the CB to it. So that is how I'll be generating it at the runtime. Into the on-click listener, what you need to do is check for the ID equal to 0, 1 till 9, and accordingly place the switch cases. Samantha. Got my point here? This is runtime, Ajay. This is runtime. It's like I'm adding up 10 checkboxes. Can you see that? So for click listeners, you just need to give it a value, cases, and it will do its work for you. Since it is not scrollable, if you want, I can also do it a scrollable layout. Just wait on a sec. So here now what I have done is I have placed my linear layout inside a scroll view. So I can have the scrolling enabled inside my linear layout. Is it possible to get text from an array? From an array of what, Sumanta? From an array of checkboxes? You can see the scrolling getting enabled here, right? Sumanta, just let me know. It's like text string. Is it possible to get text from an array? Sumanta, I think I'm not able to get your question here. Let me just understand here. So what do you want to get from here? Sure, you can do that, Ajay. If you want to generate text box from a button click, what you need to do is all the code that I have added here, you will be adding it up onto the button click. Runtime creation of objects. Rojan, I hope this is clear to you. You haven't responded back for quite some time, Rojan. All right. I hope this is clear to you, Ajay. Only this condition has to go inside the button click listener. All right, Sumanta, let's go back to your query. Are you trying to fetch up the value that is available here? Are you talking about this value? Just let me know. If you want to fetch up this value, all you need to do is, I'll just show you. You have the object reference. All right, CB is there with you. You just do a CB.get text and it will give you the value that it is housing. So at present it will give you the value checkbox space 0 for first element, checkbox space 1 for second element, something like that. Then we have the radio buttons. I hope checkboxes, toggle buttons clear to everyone. Any sort of doubts, any sort of queries? Now let's talk about the radio buttons. All right. So the radio buttons allow the user to select one option from a set of options. You can use the radio buttons for optional sets that are mutually exclusive. So they do not have any particular relation with each other. So if I just go here, what I'll just do is I'll just comment my piece of code here because I am not interested in generating dynamic views here. Go on to the views.xml and drag and drop a few radio buttons. Just don't know why it's not taking it up. It will take it up. So here I add up 3 radio buttons onto my element view. If I do a run as, all the 3 will show up onto my UI. So if you see, I click on radio button 1, I click on radio button 2, I click on radio button 3. But you see, I cannot deselect them again. This is strange because if I need to have a UI behavior wherein I need to select one from the 3 options, then the normal radio button behavior doesn't work for me. Can everybody see this up? I'm trying to deselect this up, but it is not letting me or allowing me to do so. Then there comes another concept here. So this radio button, now the 3 radio buttons have to be cascaded inside a radio group now, so that they know whether they are part of a group of elements or not. Once I do that, I have to give it a height and width property to the radio group. So I give it a height, which is wrap content, and I give it a width, which is fill parent. Then if I try to run it up, it will let me or allow me to select any of the 3 options. So here I click on 1, I click on 2, I click on 3. Yes, Sumanta, if you want to change the orientation, should I change it up? Here you see the orientation change. In order to do that, what you need to do is just switch off your num lock and press the 7 key. Samantha. Switch off the num lock and press the 7 key. That is how you will be able to change the. Can we do this with checkboxes also? Akshay, if you remember, checkboxes already have that thing enabled. Checkboxes do not work in the same manner as the radio button. So you already have that checkboxes field. In order to do that or group them together, you will be using a radio button because checkboxes allow you multiple selections, which is not the case with the radio buttons. No, not the cascading thing. As I said, checkboxes, if you might be knowing, checkboxes are used for multiple selections, while radio buttons are used for single selection. Sure, I'll take you through the coding part again, but in the coding part I haven't done anything. Ajay, I haven't done anything into the coding part. Ankit, I haven't done anything. Just the toggle button and checkboxes. Ankit, in the coding part I haven't done anything. In the view XML part, I have just cascaded them inside a radio group. The 3 radio buttons have been cascaded inside a radio group. Only what in sense of a default value? Can you just tell me about this? What do you say in sense of a default value? That's correct. We can always do that. Only in order to do that, for example, you want the first one to be checked. Just say the checked attribute to be true. And if you go on to the graphical layout now, you will see it is already checked. By default, it is unchecked. Got my point here? So if you want to check, let me also tell you about this. If you want to check anything onto the checkbox, onto the radio buttons, onto the toggle buttons, there is a behavior which says is checked. Object.isChecked, which will give you whether it is selected or not. So that is how you can play around with the values. I hope everybody got it right. Anyone having any doubts? Let's move up then. So I have already told you about radio groups, radio buttons. Then comes the spinners. So spinners are the usual drop-down behavior that you see on any particular Android device. How many of you have opened up the date selection? Go into settings and open up the date selection on your Android devices. So what does it show you? Does it show you a list of elements that you have to choose from? And the list is shown you as a drop down. Is that right? No, not the list in its acute sense, Akshay, not the list in its acute sense. It is like a drop down list. Do not confuse the list view with the list that I'm talking about. It is like, what I'm saying is a drop down list. That's correct. Sumanta says it is the input with bounded values. That's correct. Alright, so let's talk about something and how we'll be implementing them in Android. You see a widget here which says spinner. Just drag and drop this widget onto the UI. So here I have got my spinner in place, right? Go on to my main activity. Can anybody tell me, alright, a quick question for everyone. Can anybody tell me, does a spinner require an adapter? Murli says yes. Alright, let me get all the responses. And why does it require an adapter? All right. Why does it require an adapter? Everybody said yes, right? That's correct. All right. So Sumanta says, all right, let me go back. Ajay says because it needs to array inbound input. That's correct. Murli says because it requires a list of items. So whenever I talk about a data set, I would put it like that. Whenever we require a data set, we'll always work with a spinner. I hope I'm correct here. Whenever we require a data set, right, we work with a spinner. So here I say spinner.setAdapter, the adapter that I had already created for all the days in a week. If you remember that, I say string ARR adapter spinner.setAdapter, and here I have the adapter set. Now let's create one more thing which is different in terms of spinner. The on item selected listener. Here you see this is different, right? Everybody agrees with me, this is different in terms of spinner. We were talking about on click, we were talking about on item click listener, but here you see on item selected listener. Why so? Can anybody think about it? Why do we have it like this? The on item selected. Come on guys, this is, since you have already used this, you have already seen this behavior. So I think this is not going to be a little complex for everyone. No, this is not the same signature, Murli. The signature is different. Yes, the adapter element list is same. All right, this is the same, but this method is different, Murli. I think everybody can relate to it. It's like whenever we select something. That's correct. That's correct. Because it's Rojan says because the action which makes sense to a spinner is on item selected and not on the on item click. That's very much correct, Rojan. I think you have answered it very correctly here. I think I wouldn't have been able to answer it this much this well. Right. So that is what Rojan says, and I think I completely agree with Rojan here, because the action that we take onto the spinner is the item selected. We do not click on it. We just select the item and it goes into the spinner element selected. Here you see, all right, I'll just change the orientation. So here you see the item selected goes Monday. If I go here, you see a list of elements. If I choose any one, it goes into the selection and it raises a toast notification for that. Right? So a spinner is something, all right, I'll just do a few changes also, because I think the layout that the spinner is populating is not the correct layout. So let's call it all right, let's call it a simple drop down one list item. Now it will look more meaningful because the layout will be a little good here. Right, now the item selected goes Monday. I think the property of the spinner is a problem here. Let's go and change this up. But it has to be a fill parent. That's what the problem is. And now it will resolve it. Because I want the drop down should come up on the complete window, not on the space that is occupied by the spinner. Here you see that. Now I choose any value and it will automatically go into the spinner and it shows the item is selected as Thursday. One more difference, it's the very first element of the array is shown as automatically selected. you would have seen it was automatically showing Monday as the selected element when I created this view, right? So that is another feature of this spinner. It shows an element already selected. So that is how the spinner behaves. So you can also have multiple variances to the spinner elements. You can also have a radio button like feel, checkbox like feel to the spinner. So they all work. Any person having any doubts in understanding the spinners or the drop down? Alright, when will on nothing selected be invoked? Srinivas has asked me. Srinivas, if for example I do not have any element in my spinner, then it will be invoked. Or if I say I selected the spinner to show on the view and I press the back button of the device. See, I have here and I press the back button. In this case, the on nothing selected will go on. Got my point? So just a condition, like if there is anything that could not be selected, so this on nothing selected will be. Can I give name to a spinner? I think I have already named it up, Akshay. It's spinner 1 that I have given it as the name. Is there anything to implement the validation rule? Sumanta, just let me know what kind of validation do you want to implement so that I can tell you how exactly you should go about it. Ankit has asked me how to add checkbox in this spinner. Ankit, that depends on the layout. If you see here, there are few layouts. I have to just check here. You see here, select dialog multi-choice. I'll just check this up. I'm not sure whether this works. It's just that I have to check this up. Oh no, I mean that how can we put date? Here you see the checkbox implementation. Alright, so that is what is shown here. Right? So that is how you can use the checkbox implementation, Ankit. The item for that is multi-dialog, dialog multi-choice. In order to put date, Akshay, what you need to do is you need to create a layout which holds all the date parameters, and then you have to do a date selection for that. Alright, Akshay, it's not something, it's something that is selected from the array of elements. So if you do not have the array of elements that contain the date behavior, you cannot do that. Alright, Sumanta says in order to have validations like user have to select at least one option from the spinner. Got it. Sumanta, what you can do in this case is, so Sumanta has a question here. It's like when the user has to choose at least one option from the spinner, and says, and the first option of the spinner should be select date. So what you can do, Sumanta, is just like suppose you have to create validations on click of a button. I think that is how you'll be dealing with it. That you say click on next and then you'll be validating the spinner. So what you can do is you get spinner dot get selected item, which will return you the item that is selected in the spinner at present. You check it up. If that item matches select day, for example, you say the validation is failed. If that does not match the select day, you say the validation is passed. So that is how you can do that up. Alright, so that is how you can have the validations in place. Or what you can also do is, on the on item selected listener, you just check whether the item selected is equal to select day, fail the validation. If it is not, then pass the validation. That's correct. That's correct, Sumanta. Otherwise, how are you going to handle them? If you do not do it manually, you won't be able to handle anything. It's like if the control does not know. Let me tell you about this. A control does not know what kind of validations you are applying to it, right? So it is like all the validations have to be handled by the user. A control does not know what kind of validations it has to handle. You might be checking for not null. You might be checking for not spaces. All right. So that these kind of validations are something that are user driven. In ASP.NET, we can put validation rules. In that case, Sumanta, if you say in ASP validation, you can put the validations on the drop downs. Let me tell you, no, it's all fine. I'm not minding it at all. It's all fine. I just want to give you some clarity. It's like in ASP.NET, you can define the set of range or the values that can be selected. However, in this particular way, the value or ranges that you have to select are driven from the adapter. So that is why there's difference between the implementation in ASP.NET and in Android, right? So that is the difference. I won't mind anything, Sumanta, let me tell you about this. It's like I am here to just make you all teach new concepts. So that is all fine. Do not think like that. I'll never mind anything that comes up from my students. Alright, so here we have the spinners. Any person having any doubts in the spinner context, you can respond back onto the chat window. Any queries, any questions in the spinners? I think I can expect a no here. I think I can expect a no because I think spinners would be clear to everyone. How to do it like this stay. What's that, Akshay? Come again. Can you just then a list of the day? How to do it like this day? Then a list of day. Didn't get your point, Akshay. Didn't get your point. I'm sorry about this, man. Just take your time, draft a good query, and I'll respond back. Take your time in drafting a query, Akshay. I'm giving you all the time. Alright, so the autocomplete text view we'll take up in the coming class. Alright, we'll take it up in the coming class, the autocomplete text view, because we should have 15 to 20 minutes in this session for question and answers. Alright. Alright, so here starts our 15 minutes for the question and answer session. Any person having any questions, any queries, not respective of the topics that have been taught, you can ask me anything that relate to Android. Akshay, I'm still waiting for your query, man. It is by default displaying Monday. Can we have a heading here like day? Sure, Akshay. In order to do that, the first element of your spinner has to be a select day. I'll show it to you like this. Alright, so that is how you can do it up. Is there any autosave option in main activity.java? What is that, Ankit? Autosave in terms of saving the file? I'm using a shortcut here. I'm using a shortcut which is Control S. That's correct. I'm using a shortcut which is Control S. Alright, so that is why you are seeing all the saving done automatically. Alright, Ajay, can you also tell me what exactly is the, it's like what validation do you want to put up? Ajay. So I'll be very specific how you'll be dealing with it. Can you see this, Akshay? Now it is showing a select day as the first element. So you choose any day and it goes on into the spinner. Like we want to select at least one checkbox. In that case, Ajay, what you need to do is, suppose you have two checkboxes. As I said, what you will be doing is you'll see if cb1.isChecked equal to true and an operator, cb2.isChecked equal to true, you pass the validation, or say or, you can do an or, like cb1 or cb2 is checked, pass on the validation, else fail the validation. This is for checkboxes. some input text in the text field, you check whether edit text dot get text is not equal to spaces, blank spaces. So that will be the null check. If you want to check that it should contain more than 10 characters, so you can say while length is less than 10. So that is how you can place all the checks. That's correct, Akshay. It should be the heading and not the text, but Android handles this differently. All right. So that is why the first element of this spinner is always shown as the default heading. So that is how we also do it. We check if the spinner does not contain the select day, then only we pass the validation. Akshay. Any other questions? Any other questions? I think everybody, is there any widgets for displaying a graph in Android? In that case, Srinivas, we need to use the core plot libraries. There are charting libraries that are available to us. So we have to use them as third-party libraries in order to display the graphs. There are few charting libraries that are available. Core plot is one of those. Sure, Samantha, I still remember this. I'll just ask my support team to send you over all the recordings of the last class. I think, Sumanta, you can also contact the person who had contacted you. So if you want to have the first class again, I think you can get shifted onto the first class. A radio button is different from a toggle button. That is not a surety, Sumanta, because honestly, it's something that we have to decide. It's just that I was not well the last week, so the batch was taken by some other candidate. All right. So do not worry on that part. As I said, all the instructors are equally good. There is nothing like we are not a notch higher than the others. We are all equally good. I think the fellow instructors might be better than me on any given day. Right? So do not think about it like that. What makes toggle different from a radio button? It is just the UI, Ajay. Alright, it is just the UI that makes it different. And in terms of on and off state, you can think about it as a difference from a radio button. Alright? Alright, what is absolute layout? Akshay, absolute layout is something that was used prior to API level 8. 2.2 and before, it was used as an absolute layout. At that time we had absolute layout because Android devices were not of varying screen sizes. They were of the single screen size. So that's why we placed or worked on the absolute values like 40 pixel, 20 pixel and something. But nowadays absolute layout is not used, Ajay. Akshay. Alright. Alright. When we create a new activity, we see options like create a blank activity and a few more. In the previous class video, I saw an option showing login activity, but I could not see when I created the new activity. Let me show you that. How, so we don't use it now? That's correct, Akshay, we do not use it now. Let me show here, Ankit, let me go here for your query here. What was that you saw as a login activity? Are you talking about this, Ankit? Alright, so that is how you can choose it up. You choose next, you click on finish. It will automatically create an activity which looks like a login activity for you. All the email validations are already there in place. Alright, so that is how you can do it up. Alright, so this contains everything. It is for a client server based model, Ankit. So I would suggest that you do not look into it at present. Once we do the client server interaction, then you can look into this particular activity. I have shown you that the option is coming here, right? All right, any other questions? How can we hide the text in the password text view? Akshay, in that case, if you want to hide the text in the text password here, if you see here, I was working on, let me go here. Okay. So here you see I have an edit box. I just need to set up an attribute which says password equal to true. So once I set this attribute, it will automatically replace all the text being entered with the asterisk signs. In a grid layout, can you show an example to display day and date side by side? Srinivas, in order to do that, we have a calendar instance. All right. In a grid layout, can you show an example? Show day and date side by side. All right, Srinivas, I think we'll be covering up customization of the grid views and the list views in the coming classes. All right, so that requires a custom adapter. All right, so I think when we'll be covering that, then definitely it will be more clear to everyone, and I think you all will be able to do this up. Instead of me doing it for you, I think you all will be able to do it up by yourself. Any other questions from anyone? So these are the only doubts that you people have. Should I have an assignment for you? Should I give you all a small assignment? Ajay, I'll be available on the weekends. All right. So here is an assignment for all of you. So this is the screen that I have. Inside the screen, I have a list view. Till this much space. Just remember, till this much space I have the list view. Inside the list view, what I have is I have n number of elements. Elements will be, it is going to be very easy assignment for everyone, but I just want everybody to do it. It has to be spinner. It has to be toggle button. It has to be radio button. It has to be a text view and edit text. Radio group. All right, so this is all the elements that I have in the list view. Once I click on spinner, what should happen is the layout that you're seeing on this at the bottom should get this spinner populated, right? If I click on toggle button, the spinner should remove, and I should add up a toggle button here at the same place. Let me also tell you about the few properties. So what you can have is, you can have a spinner, all the elements that you have on the text view, on the list view. You can place them here at the bottom view with their state as gone. The visibility attribute should be equal to gone. Keep them up like this on this view. If you click on spinner, check which element got clicked, right? And then you say, if it is a spinner, set visibility of the spinner equal to visible, and other views as invisible. And this check has to be done for all the views. Any problems, any understanding issues, any questions in the assignment? I have given you a fair idea about the assignment. Any questions, any queries? Akshay, yes. Last layout is not dynamic. Let me tell you, it is not dynamic at present. It is loaded with all the views, but the views have their presence gone. Last layout is loaded with all the views, like a spinner, a toggle button, a radio button, a text view, an edit text, a radio group. But every property has got its visibility to be gone. Getting my point? Sumanta, this is for you. Any questions, any queries till the time that I have talked about it? Akshay, any questions? What I'm saying is, listen, it's like list view on top, a layout at the bottom which contains all the spinner, toggle button, radio button, text view, edit text, radio group, but their visibility property is set to be gone. You have to choose a visibility attribute, set it to be gone. Now tell me if this is clear to everyone. Be very quick. That's correct. That's correct. Akshay, gone equal to hidden. Hidden in a sense that it will not occupy any screen space. Let me also tell you about this. It will not occupy any screen space if its property is set to be gone. If its property is set to be invisible, it will take up screen space. There are three properties: gone, invisible, visible. Visible will make the view visible and also take up screen space. Invisible will not show this view but will take up screen space. Gone will not show the view, will not take up any screen space. Sumanta, any doubts, any queries? Here you see, I'll show you. Here you see a visibility option. Set it to be gone. Simple as that. Now when you will be doing it from the code, that is when the list item will be selected, you first of all instantiate all the elements from the XML. All the spinners and everything has to be instantiated from the XML, and then just call spinner.setVisibility view.visible, and similarly the invisible properties for all the other ones. Any questions, any queries, any comments? I hope this is not a typical assignment, but if it is, no problems. You can take our support on Skype, you can take my support on Skype, and you can ask me on the emails. All right, so I think I'm always there for you. Everyone, come on. By when can I expect this assignment to be in my inbox? You take all the references in the code, Akshay. First of all, you take all the references of all the elements like the spinners and text boxes and everything inside the XML. Take it into the activity, and then if I click on list view spinner, so you do spinner.setVisibility view.visible, and for all other views set the visibility to be gone. Akshay, I have just got 2 responses on the assignment part. When can I expect the assignment to be in my inbox? Just two responses. All right, Srinivas, I think Wednesday is good. Sumanta, Wednesday is good. Ajay, all right, you can take till Thursday. Akshay, I haven't received anything from you. Ayush also says Wednesday. Akshay, I'm waiting for your response.
All right, Akshay, if you do not understand this, I think we can have a session. We can have a session where I'll give you the complete understanding. All right. Or what you can do is you can contact us on Skype support. And have you all checked out the new feature that we have added up onto the Edureka web page? Has anybody logged into their LMS? There's a very good addition that we have done. That's correct, Ankit. That is a very good addition that we have done. Ankit says it is the discussion forum. That's correct. We have done a very good addition to it, right? So in this case, what can happen is every single candidate can contact us. Here you see. All right, so you can just create a new topic, create a ticket, create a solution, create a forum. All right, so that is how you can just contact us every now and then. And it is not just us, it is also the fellow teammates or the batchmates or all the fellow attendees who are learning this course can make you or say help you up in discussing in exploring new concepts. All right, so just take a look at the discussion forum, and that is where you can benefit from. I hope everybody would be seeing that now. Go into the LMS and get this done. All right, then this is all that I have for all of you in this batch, in this class today. I hope to see you all in the class in the coming week. Till then, just finish off the assignments. Akshay, I think since you want me to explain the assignment again? All right, so here you see I have to create a list view which contains elements of the list view as spinner, toggle button, radio button, text view, edit text, radio group. Then all the items are added here, but their visibility is gone, right? Now when you click on a spinner element, you have already got that instantiated from the XML part. You say spinner.setVisibility, view.visible, and do a view.gone for all other views. Alright, so that is how the assignment has to be. I hope now it is clear to you. If you click on spinner, spinner will show here. If you click on toggle button, a toggle button will show here. If you click on radio button, a radio button will show here. Any questions, any queries still? No, as a view, as an object. Not as a text, Akshay, as an object. All right. I hope now it is clear to you. All right, then this is all that I have for all of you in today's class. I hope to see you all in the class in the coming week. Just remember, you have all to finish the assignment, and also remember that there is a feedback form that comes up after the class. So do remember to fill up the feedback form after the class. I hope to see you all in the coming class. Have a very good day. Bye bye. Take care.
The organizer has ended the session and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.